after last week's win again, or not last week, the last game that where we played the Bills, we saw something a little different. We saw a little bit more quick game from Zach. He was mostly in shotgun. If he was under center, it was a quick drop back, and his eyes were downfield. And it had a lot of success. It seemed like a lot of the thinking was taken out of it, and he was very successful with this game plan. And I was thinking, well, all right, if it worked against the Bills, will it work against the Patriots? And I don't know. I truly don't know. Like, do the Patriots have the ability to stop that quick game? What do you think?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting discussion because I think looking at things in a vacuum, Zach Wilson does well with quick game. So let's try and do more quick game to continue doing what he does well. And I don't think that thought process is completely and totally misaligned. The difference, I think, is when you're looking at the composition of these two defenses, I think the Patriots are willing to play a little more man coverage than Buffalo. And I think the Jets were able to get some yards going on quick passes against the Bills because they weren't seeing as much man coverage. There were a few opportunities where they got man coverage and they were able to exploit it. I remember Garrett Wilson had a catch up the seam that was in man coverage, I think on a third down, where he's able to win off the snap and gets into his route quick. Zach's able to hit him and it gets to be a big gain that moves the chains. But outside of that, a lot of the early down passing, a lot of the short, intermediate, quick game stuff like you're talking about was coming against zone from Buffalo. And I feel like if Belichick is smart, which we know that he is, he's going to be looking to play more man and play probably specifically a little more press man to take away the open stuff underneath in the quick game. Not to mention, I think you go back to the game a few weeks ago and the Jets offense moved the ball. Like it got lost in Zach Wilson's turnovers, but he had 355 passing yards that day. Granted, two plays, he had big plays, one to Denzel Mims and one to Garrett Wilson. You take that yardage output away, it was still like 240 yards of passing offense from Zach Wilson, which was still higher than what he had been doing in the weeks prior. Michael Flohr schemed up a good game. And I know showing you opportunities on film after that game and clips that we were talking on Twitter, that there were other opportunities that Zach just missed that weren't interceptions that could have been open plays. So I think if you're looking at this offensively, if you're the Jets and you're looking at Zach Wilson in particular, do you want to try and have the quick game going to get him into a rhythm? Absolutely. But I don't think that can be the end all be all. And I think if you're a fan trying to look at this game going, the old cliche, it's kind of like when Zeke Elliott gets 25 or more carries, the Cowboys win X percent of time. I feel like people think if Zach Wilson gets the ball out of his hands in less than 2.42 seconds, that, it's going to be a good play no matter what. And I don't feel like it's that simple. So I think get Zach into a rhythm early with some easy throws underneath. Absolutely. Completely agree with that. All on board. But I think you got to take your shots. And I think you got to be willing to throw the ball down the field and trust that Wilson's going to make the right read. And you can't hamstring your offense by just becoming a purely dink and dunk attack that doesn't threaten anybody vertically, because I just don't think we have the offensive line to do that. I don't think we have the run game right now to supplant that with the way the offensive line is comprised and with the running backs that we have. Not having Breece Hall as that extra element in the backfield to keep defenses focused on, I think makes that a little tougher. So I'm not trying to disagree with the thought process. All of the thinking is sound. And like I said at the start, in a vacuum, completely and totally agree. But I feel like in this game in particular, Belichick's going to know that that's coming, and that can't be your only answer.
Can't be the only answer. So how would you supplant that? What would be the main game plan that you would want to kind of build this game plan around? How would you get, besides the quick game to get him in a rhythm early, what would you really want to lean on as the game goes on?
I think the thing to lean on, and really this showed up to me at the end of the Buffalo game, and I think the Jets can do this again for the second week in a row. You lean on your power run game. The last drive of the game against the Buffalo Bills, the Jets were starting at their own 5-yard line. They ran the ball 10 times for 77 yards of the 13 plays total in the drive, averaged 7.7 yards a carry for the drive. Their first 3 plays of the game were the exact same GT counter concept, in a row 3 times. James Robinson got it twice. Michael Carter got one of them, and it went for like 35 yards to open the game. I think you can really get more effective with this offensive line right now. Instead of trying to be the wide zone team that gets to the edge or the split zone team that's able to trust single blocks to, down block people out of the way. And then you have Uzama or whoever it is coming back on the sift to take out the free defensive end. And you're hoping to get into the crease between it. They've really struggled blocking with those concepts this year, but when they try and do more power concepts, when they try and run more counters, when they try and push down and pull some guards, and even when they run their pitches where they get guys like Dwayne Brown out in space and pitch to the edge, I think you can have more success trying to go. If you can get some yardage moving the ball on the ground with some power concepts up the middle against this Patriots defense, I think everything else opens itself up from behind that. Because on top of that, I think you can do it from shotgun, first off, which we saw that when Zach Wilson's in the shotgun, he seems to be more comfortable. So you don't got to worry about going under center and going back to your core principles that way. We've also seen that Zach Wilson's really, really good at the RPO glance routes, and especially the little tight end leaks over the middle too, where they've had a handful of big plays this year where Wilson's in the shotgun and he fakes the run inside and he's able to throw the little pop pass over the linebacker to Conklin and it goes for 15 yards. On top of that, if you can get these power concepts working out, now you can start running play actions where you pull linemen while you're doing it. And we've seen the Jets do that a couple of times where on Breece Hall's big play against Miami, they run a play action where I'm pretty sure they pulled Laken Tomlinson and he came around to take on the defensive end that was waiting for, a power block and wasn't fully pass rushing. And it opened up a good passing lane and a good pocket for Wilson to throw into. I think that's where your offense starts. It's you got to trust Zach Wilson to not make turnovers first and foremost. Wilson has to play clean. You cannot just be giving the game away like you were a few weeks ago against the Patriots. But after that, I think if you can get some power run game going, especially from shotgun, and I really like that GT counter concept they used against Buffalo. I think they can do that more. If you can get some yardage in the run game doing that, I think it's going to open up the play action. I think you're going to have other elements for Zach to throw to, and you can still be threatening down the field. And if teams are focused on the run game, or if the Patriots are focused on stopping the run, they're going to be less focused on stopping the quick passes as well.
Got it. So, well, I think when we first played the Patriots, it was Robinson's first game. So we relied heavily on Carter that game. And I think that was maybe the first or second game without Vera Tucker. And so it was kind of a new dynamic with that offensive line as well. As we saw against the Bills, this offensive line did a lot better of a job. And do you think that the way that they've gelled together and the way that they've progressed will have the impact that we need it to have in this game?
I really hope so. I don't want to go ahead and sit here and say that it absolutely will. I'm very encouraged by what we saw against Buffalo. I have to say, because about the only unit on Buffalo's defense that wasn't injured when the Jets played them was their defensive line. They still had Ed Oliver. They still had Von Miller. They still had Greg Rousseau. They still had AJ Epinesa subbing in. They still had Jordan Phillips. Their core pieces up front were all still playing, and the Jets offensive line was able to pretty much neutralize them for most of the day. And outside of one opportunity where Von Miller beat Abwehi and it became a strip sack, again, like I said, when we were talking about that game before, I'm not going to get all over Cedric Abwehi coming off the street for giving up a sack to Von Miller. And the only other sack they gave up the rest of the day was the end of their last drive, where Zach Wilson smartly takes a sack to keep them in field goal range and keep the clock running. So I'm very encouraged by what we saw. The only difference is I'm a little more worried about the Patriots scheming up pressures with stunts and twists. And Lamont Jordan, actually, my co-host on Believe in Jets, he brought this up when we were recording that yesterday, where that was one of his big keys for the offense was be aware of the games up front by the Patriots. That's where communication absolutely is going to be key, and eliminating the free rushers that come through. Because we've seen this season when Zach Wilson has free rushers coming at him, disaster happens. And if he doesn't have free rushers coming at him and he has time to stand in the pocket and go through his reads and trust what he's seeing, usually, he's a pretty efficient quarterback and the Jets offense does pretty well. So I think that first and foremost has got to be a key. And on top of that, you got to chip the hell out of Matt Judon. You got to do whatever you can to make sure that you're aware of him because he can wreck a game. Just like Von Miller could have wrecked a game, and the Jets did a really good job against him, chipping him and taking away any opportunities for him to just get going. I think you got to do the same thing, and you got to treat Judon with the same respect. Where I'm trying not to give him a one-on-one at any point all day, and if he is going to be in a situation where he's getting a one-on-one, then I'm hoping that we're sliding the line in that direction, or there's some sort of play action fake coming at him, or something that he has to read to slow him down and not just let Judon pin his ears back. Because if Judon can go full force, then I don't think it matters how much communication this line has. I just think he's better than our tackles.
He just is that much better. It's like night and day between the talent level of Judon and any of our tackles at this point.